Shekaychachem, Rabbi Weiner. And now we have the schus to hear from Dr. Eli Shapiro, who is the founder of the Digital Citizen Project. He's spoken to us twice before, but we'll hear some big chidushim today.
Thank you. It's interesting. I see that my reputation for statistics precedes me. I've actually been trying to cut down on the statistics because some of my audience say that it's just too much with the statistics. Actually, about 72% of my audience says it's too much with the statistics. And so I'm really trying to cut that back. But so much of what you said, I think, intuitively addresses a lot of our concerns. But I think fundamentally we have to understand the idea that when it comes to technology and when it comes to our functioning as human beings, we would all be better off socially, psychologically, behaviorally if we didn't have any of this in our lives. I think it's a fundamental idea that we need to understand. For many of us, it's a necessity for business purposes, for productivity purposes, but with that productivity, with that efficiency, with that necessity for business, it comes at the consequence of our social, psychological, and behavioral functioning. And in preparing for this session, it's such a wide range of areas around technology that we can talk about, that social, psychological, behavioral, impulsivity, disinhibition, compulsivity, desensitization, it goes on and on, resilience and grit, mindfulness. There are so many topics that are impacted by this. But I think perhaps what we started with, this idea of distraction, this idea of our own functioning in the area of distraction and productivity, how it's impacted by technology, I think is the one area I want to talk most about. There's a story in the 1950s when the Lubavitcher Rebbe became the Lubavitcher Rebbe that a woman named Chana Sharfstein came to meet with him, and she brought with her a tape recorder. And she asked the Rebbe, is it okay if I record this conversation? And he responded by saying, no, don't record it, because the fact that you're going to have a tape recorder here, you're not going to be in the moment with me. You're not going to be paying attention. You're going to be worried about the tape recorder, whether the gears are turning, whether it's recording, whether the batteries are working. And that just serves as a distraction. And that's amazing. In the 1950s, the ability to recognize that at that time, the research today is bearing that out as well. What we find, and this has been replicated in numerous ways, the mere presence of a device, just the presence of it, reduces cognitive functioning. Our ability to think, our ability to focus, our ability to delve into something, just the mere presence. Forget touching it, forget checking it. Just the presence. This has been done in the business world. It's been done with kids. In students, what they had them do is take standardized tests. And so some of the students had their phone on the desk, and the others did not have it with them. Consistently, the students that did not have the phone there performed better than the students that did. Similarly, in the business world, we as adults, when we have our phone accessible to us, they've looked at different aspects of it, whether it is on the desk, whether it is in your pocket, or whether it's in a different room. And on each level, the individual's ability to remain focused and engaged and in the moment and in the meeting and cognitively there was far better when the phone was not there at all. So that idea of the technology impacting us on that distraction level is critical. And, we talk a lot about kids and technology. We talk about, we need to limit, we need to make sure that they don't have technology. And I've actually seen, as Rabbi Weiner pointed out, this rollback almost, where Bachram and Bacharets in their 19, 20, 21, making the decision that they don't want technology. They don't want it. My own daughter actually does not have a smartphone by design. She's 21 years old. And same thing in the shidduchim process. She won't go out with someone with a bacher that does have a smartphone. And it's an understanding of how it impacts life functioning. So we see that in the younger generation. I even see more centrist communities in schools where kids are challenging each other to reduce the screen time numbers that they're utilizing on the phone, reducing the amount. And this is in communities where the normative behavior is for teens to have smartphones, and even in those communities they're taking steps back and making decisions to utilize it less. But what about us as the adults? Are we making those decisions? Are we being strategic? Are we being thoughtful and deliberative with our technology use? Starting with, do we need the smartphone? And for some cases, it may be yes. For some cases, if we really gave a fearless assessment of what our needs are, maybe we don't need it. Maybe what we need we can accomplish using a computer. Is there a difference between a computer and a smartphone? Absolutely. The fixed location of a computer is very different than the portability of a smartphone. Everything changed in 2007 when the iPhone came out, and all the distraction and all the time wasting and all the emotional dependence on technology now came with us everywhere we went. It makes a huge difference. We were doing some work with a company, something in the financial technology sector, on how technology was impacting workforce well-being and productivity. So it's workforce well-being and productivity. And what was really interesting, we surveyed individuals in this company, and we asked them, does your smartphone serve as a distraction to your work? The vast majority of them said no, no distraction. We also asked them, does your neighbor's smartphone serve as a distraction to your work? And the vast majority of them said yes. So my neighbor's phone, big distraction. Of my phone? No distraction. What that tells us is there's a lack of self-awareness. The research objectively identifies that we are all distracted by our devices, but our own self-assessment of our relationship with technology doesn't allow us to do that. So it's so important to recognize, yes, technology is distracting us. Yes, it's reducing our productivity. Yes, it's reducing our ability to really delve into a project. There was a study that was done where they compared individuals in the business world who checked their emails compulsively, right, checking their device, did I get an email, right, which is what most of us do, compared to those that check their email at designated points during the day. And this is exactly what Rabbi Viner was talking about. What they found was that those that checked their emails at designated points in the day, two things happened compared to those that checked compulsively. One is their overall subjective well-being was better. Their anxiety was less. From a psychological standpoint, lower levels of anxiety. But what they also found was that their productivity vastly improved. You might think that, it's counterintuitive. If I'm not checking and responding to my emails right away, then my productivity is going to decrease. What they actually found was that the productivity improved. And the reason that is, if I'm checking my emails every 2 hours on the top of the hour, what happens is, aside from not getting caught in some back and forth email drama, what happens is you're able to focus on the emails, respond to those emails, and the next hour and a half, 2 hours, focus on the work at hand. One psychological researcher identifies something called flow. Flow is our maximum level of productivity in delving into a task. And he identifies that it takes approximately 20 minutes to fully immerse yourself in a task, whatever that task is. And so if we're checking our devices, which many people do in a compulsive way every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, we never actually achieve our highest level of functioning. And so we need to be thoughtful and deliberative and strategic with how we decide to utilize technology. So the questions we need to ask ourselves are, one, do we need the smartphone, or can what I need to do be accomplished on a computer? Two, even when I do have a smartphone, what software, what behaviors am I utilizing to effectively manage the smartphone in the most productive way that I can? Three, what steps can I take in my life to better utilize that technology in a responsible way that's not interfering? Again, we're talking about primarily distraction today, but this really impacts all aspects of our living. So whether it's making a decision, in my own home we have something called going dark for dinner. Going dark for dinner is that during dinner time there is no technology. When I was a kid growing up, when it was dinner time, the phone used to have a cord. It was on the wall. Everybody remember this? And there was like that windy cord, right? When the phone rang during dinner, we just didn't pick it up. It was dinner time. We didn't pick up the phone during dinner time. They'll call back. Today, because of the portability, we've changed our paradigm, and we stop what we're doing. We pick up the phone, we respond to emails, and that, not even talking about the social piece of it and the connectivity piece of it. There was an interesting study that was done in UCLA where they measured kids, middle schoolers' ability to read facial expressions and social cues. So they got this baseline of kids, how they can connect with other people by reading social cues and facial expressions, and then they sent them to sleepaway camp without any technology. And they measured them again repeatedly throughout the summer. And what they found was that after only 5 days of being without the technology, their ability to read facial expressions and social cues and form meaningful connections with their peers vastly improved. After only 5. And if I were to ask you, when is it that you connect best with your family, with your children, with your friends? When is that? When does that happen? I was going to say Thanksgiving, but yeah, Shabbos works. Yeah, Shabbos works as well. We'll go with Shabbos. So why is it that it's qualitatively completely different? Because we don't have that distraction. We don't have that technology. So that idea of being able to incorporate that into your daily routine, making thoughtful and strategic decisions of, do I need the technology now? How can I utilize it in a way that is most efficient for me socially and my relationships, the connectivity that I have with other people? And not even going into to Seder, and davening and how technology, I'm always amazed that when people are checking their phones during davening or Chazaras Hashatz, the women are looking like, why would someone have a phone when you're davening, right? Not your husbands. In my neighborhood, that's what the husbands do. But looking at the phone, I have a confession to make. When I am davening, I have talis and tefillin on, I don't have my phone with me. So no need to applaud, really. No, the truth is, when I'm davening, I don't have my phone with me. The good news is my davening is down to 6 minutes. So that's actually, that's good. No, but really making that thoughtful and strategic decision around technology is, one, do I need it? How am I utilizing it? I was talking with someone recently, and they were talking about the challenges of Shana Rishona, when people first get married, that first year. There is so much effort that needs to go into the communication and working with each other and building that relationship. But what happens if you have a phone? What happens when you have a smartphone? What happens in that Shana Rishona when, if I'm upset, I just go to my phone? If I'm distracted, if I'm engaged in it? I challenge, I think it would be a great movement to encourage all couples, at least Shana Rishona, to not have a smartphone. Set the standards, set that relationship, set I was reading in my house Friday night. We go through Torah Agudah that they publish, and the question was along the lines of being in kollel for the first couple of years of marriage. And what Rabbi Miller said was that even if you're only in kollel for a year or 2 years, it sets your home for the rest of your life. It sets the standard. You are now a kollel family, even if you're not in kollel anymore. Similarly, if in a Shana Rishona we can promote this idea of no smartphone just that first year, even if business later on calls for it, and even if you make a strategic and thoughtful decision with your Rav, with your Rosh Yeshiva, to how to utilize a smartphone and what device to get and how to utilize it and what apps are appropriate and what apps are not appropriate for your life needs, you've already established your marriage and your family in a non-smartphone way. I feel fortunate that I got married before smartphones, so I too, Shana Rishona, no smartphones in my home. So just want to share that. So I think coming out of here, the idea is we need to understand technology. It's not a given that it has to be inundating our lives. It's not something that we need to say, once I have some technology, I need all technology. We need to be strategic and thoughtful. And the question we need to ask ourselves, we see the kids, we see the Bachrim and the Bacharettes making those decisions on how they're going to. We can step back, we can reflect, and make those decisions for ourselves again. What is it that I really need? What is the needs versus the wants? In psychology, we talk about that all the time. What are the needs and what are the wants? And if we can really take a fearless moral inventory. It's an expression they use in Alcoholics Anonymous, to take a fearless moral inventory. We can take a fearless moral inventory on our technology needs versus our wants and make decisions. What are we going to take on for ourselves, and how far can we take it? And so I think that's the thought I want to leave you with today, to process over Shabbos, to think about what is the next step that I can take in my life, what do I really need versus what do I really want. And it is possible. I was talking about, I've been getting a lot of requests to speak about post-COVID. Well, not that we're quite post-COVID yet, but this idea that we've had this excessive amount of technology engagement during COVID. I've been saying, as it relates to COVID, that the whole situation has not been ideal. Would everyone agree with that? It hasn't been an ideal situation. And so some of the decisions we made around technology were not ideal decisions. But in the same way, there was a point where we weren't going to shul and davening with a minyan. There was a point when our yeshivas were closed, and we also increased our technology. No one is saying we're never going to go back to shul. That's the new normal. No one's saying that we're never going to go back to yeshivas. That's a new normal. So why do we have to accept that the excessive technology is also the new normal? In the same way we roll things back, Walmart has it right. We're rolling things back. We can do that as a community. We can do that as individuals. And the question is, what can we do and how far can we take it? Thank you very much.